Thank you. I have 4 children. That's why I look so tired most of the time, I think. And this is my eldest son, Henry. He's 18 now, which by Hammond standards, he's quite a big chap, by Hammond standards. When he was about 4, we used to play in the garden regularly. He used to find a couple of sticks and throw them at me. And, well, he didn't just do that. And I'd catch one, and he'd run at me. And he'd say, "Aha, Captain Hook, we meet again. Let's have a battle." I'll never forget, a couple of years later, we were on a camping trip in Devon, and it was one of those farm sites, where you can have real bonfires and burn sausages on sticks and go home smelling of wood smoke, And there was a patch of woodland just next to the field. And my eldest son and I just stole away into the woods, and we went foraging for sticks for the fire. And I saw a couple of particularly straight sticks. I thought, I know. I gave one to him, and I went after him, and I said, "Peter Pan, at last, we meet again. Let's have a battle." He stood at me somewhat sardonically, and he said, "Don't be silly, Daddy. That's not a sword, it's a stick. Did you know it's spelt st-i-k? And it rhymes with brick. Did you know that, Daddy?" And I said, "No, I didn't know that. That's amazing. You're very clever for learning that, aren't you? Well done, Henry." And then he said, "Shall we get back to the campfire? Because we've got work to do." And I said, "We have got work to do, haven't we?" And something inside me died that day, because I knew that something inside Henry had sort of withered away. What was it in those 2 years since we played in the garden that robbed him of his metaphoric competence, robbed him of his ability to see the stickness of the stick and its potential to be a metaphor, a portal, if you like, into which both Henry and I would step into imagined realms, into Neverland? What had happened in those 2 years? Well, Henry had started school. And I'm not having a go at the teachers. I am a teacher. I've been teaching for 20 years. The teachers had done the right thing. They had taught him that stick begins with st-i-k, and it rhymes with brick, it does. Fair play. The teachers had done exactly what they were supposed to do in the current system, before any teachers walk out. But listen, school is a place where playing becomes learning, and learning very quickly becomes working. And it happens behind a desk. Note to self, by the way, if you're going to do a TED talk, don't leave it to the last minute to read the rules and find that you can't actually use any pictures and images without permissions and copyright. I did that. I found that out last week, so I thought I'd better make my own. I'll take that as a huge compliment. And thank you. And there he is. There he is in school with his classmates. I believe they're called his cohort. When they're sitting comfortably, then we can begin and teach them a compartmentalized curriculum of English, maths, French, geography, history, science, and so forth. You know how it works. Once we've taught them that, which we deem to be important in adulthood, we can test them on it. And we can test them on the 3 R's of what they have read, what they have remembered, and what they can regurgitate. And when you've done that, you can do all sorts of whizzy things. You can sort and rank them. You can find average scores. You can find average children. If you want to know what the average child looks like, that's what they look like. I've taught many of them. They never know which way they're going. And I believe that's called national expectations, what an average child could and should know by the end of their education. And then you put them on the road to learning. You set them to work. It takes about 13 years. And there are checkpoints along the way, aren't there, where you check their attainment and progress. And it's all about making progress. And there are formal examinations too on the road to university. They didn't make it, but some do. And it was after one such round of examinations that I went to see my son's teacher. It was a parents' evening. Have you ever had those 5-minute speed date jobs, with a bell? I actually ring the bell now in my current role as head teacher. It's great. If somebody's sitting there too long, I go and ring the bell quite close. I went to meet his teacher. I knew I'd only got 5 minutes, so I very quickly asked my burning question, which is, how has Henry performed this year? How's he been performing this year? His teacher proudly grabbed the score sheet and said, he got an A in English. He performed well in maths. He got an A star. He performed quite well in science. He got a B. He performed okay in geography. He got a C. We can work with that. He performed very well in history. Got an A. I listened patiently and obediently and proudly, and then I raised my hand and I said, forgive me, I think you've misheard my question. I asked, how has Henry been performing? And all you've given me is the result of his performance. I knew that. He came home with the results in his little diary. We talked about them for a minute or two, and then we never talked about them again, because there's nothing you can do about them. They're fixed. The definition of a fixed mindset is to look at the results and expect them to shift up by looking at them. He looked at me quizzically and realized he'd got about another 50 seconds of this awkward so-and-so. So I said, look, okay, in the last few seconds, if my son was an F1 motor car, a Ferrari, as clearly that is, the race engineers know that the performance of that car cannot be encapsulated by the result it achieves in the race alone, second or first or 17th, They know that the performance of the car comprises myriad different factors and variables. Aerodynamic design, the brake horsepower, the acceleration, the tread, the tires, and so forth. They know you cannot comment meaningfully on all of those things in the result of the race alone. Second, give me a meaningful commentary about my son. Tell me what really matters that leads behind the grade. The bell went. I had to move on. We conflate the word results and learning performance too often in schools. And they're not the same thing. They're not the same thing at all. The results are the output. We know that. They're fixed. I don't mean fixed, but they're set. They're done. The input is the learning performance. We have to look more closely at learning. We have to look at what it means, and I think it means growing. But here's the thing. Growing isn't mentioned much in school. It's called making progress, isn't it? But growing is what childhood is about. But here's the interesting thing. Nothing stunts growth more than sorting and ranking. It's entirely incompatible with growth when you think about it. We have to look at what lies behind the grade. And I think behind the grade are attitudes, behaviors, and capacities. There's your ABC. That's the one that matters. We can't see it behind the grade. We're scratching the surface only. There are deep down things to my son, to all the children I've taught in my 20 years, which cannot be encapsulated numerically alone. And that iceberg is reminiscent of the curriculum itself. There are deep down things that are being learned at school every day, in the environment and culture of the school. If the visible curriculum above is entirely based on propositional, theoretical, abstract knowledge that we teach in learning objectives, then the curriculum below is based on empirical knowledge, experiential knowledge, tacit knowledge that comes to us through our sensory explorations and social encounters. If the visible curriculum above largely requires you to apply logic, deductive reason, verbal reasoning, non-verbal reasoning, computational capacity, knowledge retention, then the curriculum below asks for instinct, intuition, inquiry, empathy, creativity. It is the curriculum below that is real. The curriculum above that we plan, teach, assess is entirely abstract to the average primary child. It is the curriculum below that is real because it is founded on their emotional state. How we feel is what's real. It's the link to what we think, said Eric Jensen. And I agree. And yet we say it's a hidden curriculum. We have to look really closely at what reality looks like for children. We have to look at how they learn. And what reality looks like for most children, in my experience, is that they learn subconsciously from most of their primary school experience, osmotically, from the environment in which they're in, driven by their emotions. It's set. It programs our subconscious for the rest of our lives. That's me, aged 7, 40 Just realised it's 40 years ago. 40 years ago. My subconscious has not changed. The hopes, daft dreams, likes, dislikes, fears, little insecurities, wild ambitions, things I thought I was good at, things I thought I was no good at and never would be, have not changed. And none of those things were formed meaningfully by the visible curriculum I was taught. They were forged in the crucible of the classroom where I formed my own model view of the world and my own view of myself. And they've not changed all these years. What can we do about it? In a few seconds, it's the culture of school that matters. It's the deep down things, the way we do things around here, that ultimately affect children's view of the world. And it's set, it's programmed for a long time afterwards. It's a culture that delivers self-respect and then that all-important self-discipline. Those I know who lack self-discipline invariably lack self-worth and self-respect. So why be disciplined? It's the self-discipline that gives us the vision, a meaning, a purpose, having a plan, seeing the point, and reaching our potential. It's the culture of the school, how we do things around here. You know those platitudes you see on websites and on school prospectuses, kindness, aspiration, all those really important things, collaboration, pride, ambition. It's those things that need to be lifted off the page. And what do they actually look like? Because those things are forging children's view of the world all the time, every day. Gives them self-confidence, helps them participate, step up, take a role, derive some value from it. And ultimately, I hope, have some positive well-being. It's the shared beliefs, the core values of the school that ultimately affect children's success and happiness. Maybe it's true of work too. Maybe it's the culture of work that ultimately affects our output, not the targets and not the deadlines. It's how we do things around here. Maybe it's true of home too. How we do things around here are helping to form and forge children's character. To close, I'm fed up of hearing life is short and you've got to get on with it. An 8-year-old said that to me the other day when they were busy writing a whole page of writing. My heart nearly died. Not least because I was nearly 40 years older than he was. Life is long, but childhood is short, and it's getting shorter. And we've got to stop calibrating it. If we don't, we'll lose it. And we'll be calibrating and testing and self-examining and self-assessing and self-doubting for the rest of our adult lives. Let's go with the flow. Let's remember that the most fulfilling and happiest adulthood is not built on a childhood that's dominated by the need to grow up. The best adulthood is based on a childhood that is free, untrammelled, and has plenty of opportunities to see the stickness of the stick, to reach for fresh metaphors and to do something new. Thank you very much indeed for listening. Thank you.